Hello and welcome back to My Mom's Basement. I am here for a quick hitter with Ben Bishop, who you may know through Barstool. If you've been following the whole Barstool world, the whole Yak world, the whole wrestling world, you've seen this guy before. You can't miss him, really. He is
Sure
a
can.
big man. He's one of the best big men on the indies, and he is here to
Oh,
talk
thank you.
all about that with me. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You didn't get the full intro though, Robbie. You
Oh
didn't get the
no.
full. I always ask every podcast host, can they do the full intro? I don't know if you know it. You know, earthquaking, pillar shaking, leader of the Meat Pop Express, Big Trouble, Ben Bishop, the man who stands at 6'12" and weighs in at 15% of a metric ton. The dude with the shades, because the sun never sets on a cool guy and a guy who ain't corporate, but he's always all about the business.
I'll get it next time. Next
All
time,
right. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Just
I'll
remember that
have
whole
that all
thing. I'm not
memorized.
going to write it down. You better remember that whole thing next time. The whole
Yeah,
thing.
you may have seen him through the videos of Brandon managing him and whatnot. Brandon recently getting slammed. That was, brutal to see. How long have you actually been wrestling for, though? How
Yeah.
long have you been
So,
in the business?
so I've been in the business now for 3 years. I played basketball in college. I went to University of Vermont. Um, and then, after that, I would play a little bit of Australian football. And I always loved wrestling. I've always been a huge fan of wrestling since I was 7, 8 years old. And just like, when we'll get to all this, but just seeing the big guys and the charisma, the larger than life personalities. My favorite wrestler of all time is Kevin Nash.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, he was the first person I saw. I turned on wrestling one day. I was sitting at my grandparents' house. My aunt was watching. I walk in and I was like, "Who's this guy?" I was always a big kid, so I just gravitated towards the bigger guys, and I saw him. I'm like, "Oh, this guy just oozes like charisma and just like he's so cool." No pun intended, so cool. Um, so one day I actually was just sitting at home on a Friday. It was 2019. I'm just sitting around. And I'm like, you know, I was actually listening to Busted Open radio and I heard Enzo on Busted Open and he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to be in Baltimore." And I live in Columbia, Maryland. So I was like, okay, that's a hop, skip, and a jump from where I live. Why not go check out a show? And I did. I stood in the back. As soon as I walked in, people were turning their heads and looking. Who the hell's that? Because Enzo was there. Everyone, for a second, thought I was Big Cass. So they walk in. They're all looking at me like, just for a second. Like, oh wait, that's not him.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm just sitting there enjoying the show. And then I just kind of stand in the back. I don't want to take anything away. I'm not, trying to be as humble as possible. I'm not trying to take anything away from people because people just look at me at these shows because they're like, he has to be somebody, he has to be involved, he has to do something. Um, so I'm standing in the back at intermission, and actually, Dwayne Gill, known as Gilbert, obviously comes up to me, and he's a Maryland guy, and he just says like, "Hey man, are you a worker?" And I was like, "I have a job." Like, he said, "No, no, man, no, are you a wrestler?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "Why not?" So I would love to be. He goes, "Okay, let me introduce you to Jimmy." And I had no idea who Jimmy was. I'm like, "Who the hell's Jimmy?" And he walks up to James Ellsworth. So he walks up to
Okay.
James, and it was his show. And the next day I was training. I was just like, all
The
right, yeah,
next
let's get
day.
the next day, the show in Hanover, PA, the next day. And I got in the ring. I took my first bump, saw my first star. You know how a bump feels, so you get it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel nice. Yeah.
And now Brandon does. By the way,
Yeah.
did you see him the next day after that? Did you
I
talk to
did.
him
He
at
was
all?
limping around. He didn't
I
know
told
you
him.
got to put the feet down.
You
He
got it.
hit the
There you go.
ankles first. Oh my
You learn
God.
from
Yeah.
Creative Pro. You get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I saw it as soon as I watched it back. I'm like, yeah, this is what you did. And he goes, well, I
Yeah.
had no idea where my feet were. And I'm like, well, that's
You know what though? I
welcome
probably
to
would
it.
have done the same thing if I were in his position. Everything would have went out my mind as soon as I got picked up. I would have been like,
Oh,
"All right, here I go."
dude, you should have seen him throughout that day. I was like, dude, it's going to be good. It's going to get a lot of views. It's going to be
Getting nervous.
fun. And he was like, does it really have to happen? I'm like, kinda.
No, it was the right call.
If you care about the storyline, it kind of goes with how it worked out with me and Reck and Ball Ligursky, and we finished the whole story there. But yeah, no, back to it. Yeah, the next day I was training, took my first bumps, all my first stars. Was like, oh my God, this is do I really want to
Running the
do this?
ropes, right? Did you like get
Running the
blown up right
ropes, that
away?
kills. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the bruises and the callus your back up.
Yeah.
But because of my athletic background, I was so it came to me pretty quickly. I kind of understood like how to move my body in space. And I tell a lot of people that when they start wrestling, I said when you know how to learn move your body in space, it makes all of this a lot easier. And so I picked up the basics pretty quick. And then, a few months later made my debut, and, the rest is history. Now I'm here. Now I'm here sitting talking to you.
So you said Kevin Nash, your favorite wrestler of all time. He was your favorite wrestler as a kid. Who are your favorite wrestlers now that you try to like take inspiration from? Because I assume it's a lot of the big men in the industry. It has to be. You can't work
Yeah.
a Rey Mysterio
Yeah.
style.
And no, of course not. They're definitely not. I've never been to the top rope. I don't think I ever will be. So right now, and that's the thing. Right now, the big man, it's not as prevalent as it used to be.
Yeah, no, I'm not even saying like
You know?
they don't have to be active, but like for
Oh,
you
okay.
actively watching like old stuff back.
Yeah. So Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. I was actually just watched a match last night. I was watching WrestleMania 8 actually
Yeah.
last night. I love watching guys like Vader as well, even though I'm not kind of the size proportions of Vader. He's just a guy as a big man could sell so well as a big man. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is that there's such a different psychology when it comes to bigger guys in pro wrestling. And you got to do things a little bit differently than maybe somebody that's smaller guys that they would do.
More David versus Goliath style selling.
Yeah, and it depends. And also, and then but also if it's like a Goliath and Goliath, if it's two big guys, there's certain things that people say, like save the bump, save the David. You don't want if you're both bumping all over the place as soon as the match starts, it kind of is like, well, now you're both just doing, but if there's a big one, it's huge, and everyone's like, oh my God, look at that, look what just happened. It's like I always compare it to a fireworks show. If you're shooting off fireworks one after the other one, and it's like a big finale for 20 minutes, you're gonna get bored. You're gonna be like, okay, that's all, but if it's just all of a sudden everyone waits for that finale of the fireworks, it's like boom, 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 everything's going off at once. It's like, okay, now people are all excited, oohs and ahs and all that.
Yeah.
And that's my philosophy around wrestling. I know you're a PWG guy. So
I
don't want to. So I get you kind of like that a little bit.
I got the DVDs down there. Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. I do like that 80s, 90s style of wrestling. Ellsworth, who trained me, James Ellsworth, it was trained by Axel Rotten. So Axel Rotten was very much trained in like the Memphis style of wrestling. And for people that don't really know, the Memphis style of wrestling is mostly like, I mean, if you just watch Jerry Lawler wrestle, you'll kind of get it. I mean, that's what it is. It's very much make everything matter, register everything, a lot of crowd work, just everything that you want to elicit those reactions from the crowd as much as possible by doing, I'll just say the least, doing the least, and that's kind of the style that I've brought. Just simple things like, I mean, you saw the clip with me in -1.
It was awesome.
And that little interaction might have got one of the bigger pops of the night there.
I'm sure.
Just like little things like that. And there were guys doing crazy things way better than I can do, and better wrestlers in the ring and technically and all this stuff. There were some great wrestlers there, but that was one of the things, and you could hear it. I was there the whole time listening to him. That got the big reaction. So appreciate the rub from the kid. But one of the guys I love watching, and coincidentally, I love watching Luke Harper, Brodie Lee. I still watch all of his stuff. So it was really cool. I didn't want to fanboy, but it was really cool to be in the ring with his son. His match with Randy Orton, I think, remember 2017, I think it was Elimination Chamber. It just showed how good of a worker he was, and how good he was really the workhorse of that team. Wyatt was great. He was great, but he was more charisma, more talking. Rowan was a good big guy, but Harper was really the guy that they knew they could put in the ring with anybody, and he'd get a good match out of him. And then his stint in AEW was great. So I love watching him. Obviously, guys like Nash, talked about Sid Vicious, Taker and Kane, of course, two of the most athletic big men of all time, and Taker probably the best working big man of all time. So that's really what I gravitate towards. I mean, I just enjoy wrestling. I enjoy majority of it.
You really do. That's like something I wrote down. Like, I feel like you're more positive on even the WWE side of wrestling than most indie wrestlers are.
Yeah, because I get it. I get what they're trying to do. So I understand like who they're catering towards. And what I always tell people, especially on Twitter, is like Twitter might be like 7% of the population. And it means a good amount, and it's kind of like the loud minority, so where you're not, and so people think like, oh, WWE, you go on Twitter, you think WWE is the worst company in the world, but somehow they're still getting 2 million people watching.
And you go to shows and everyone's
kids
having a
like
good
it.
time, you know?
Everyone's having a good. No one's ever. I swear, I've never heard anybody, unless you're the biggest like smart mark in the world. I've never heard anybody have a bad time at a wrestling show. Anybody that
Yeah, you know what's
everybody
so
that goes
funny? I
loves it.
think this year might have been in the Observer newsletter, like Survivor Series got like voted worst show of the year. And I was at Survivor
Mhm.
Series and it was a blast. And like I look
Yeah,
at it and I'm
same.
like, yeah, they put Roman over Big E, and that was his first like title. Bad like
Yeah,
booking decisions were made. But if you were actually at the show, you probably had a very good time.
yeah. But see, you're also just a very you're what we wish all wrestling fans would. You know, you're just a very positive person when it comes
Yeah.
to wrestling, and really everything that you cover. And I get what WWE is trying, and I don't have any type of connection to WWE. I tried out for WWE and they passed on me.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, back in 2021, but there's no hard feelings. I get what they're trying to do. You know, I get who they're trying to attract. You know, I thought the Vince McMahon Pat McAfee interview yesterday was great, and
Mhm.
he was what he got out of Vince and how Vince kind of was humanized a little bit. It's just that they aren't trying to attract the same audience that AEW is trying to attract,
Yeah.
and that's fine. And AEW is doing fine too. And what the people they try to attract and the individuals they try to attract, it's just different. And so it shows that there's really something for everybody in wrestling if you really look for it.
You mentioned the experience with -1. What was that overall Dark experience like? It wasn't your first time
Yeah,
working with
yeah,
AEW, but what is
yeah.
that like for you to like get to come in and work with 10 and
Um,
Preston Vance, all that?
yeah. So my first time actually was with a Creative Pro guy. It was Bear Bronson.
Yeah.
Yeah, he a great guy. And he really put me at ease in the first time I was there. I was in Jacksonville the last time they had a show in Jacksonville before fans came back, or right when fans came back. Really, it was
Mhm.
the first Dynamite. I think it was when Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega were in the main event for
Oh
the title.
yeah.
That was
When
that.
he
It was
won the
that.
battle royal and got the title
Yeah,
shot. Yeah.
yeah. It was the title match. So that was when I was there. And it was an awesome experience. It's it's really just like laid back there in a good way. You know, it's not in a bad way, in a very good
Yeah.
way. They make everybody feel just as important. You know, like you're not just considered like an extra. You know, you're actually, you know, you get a match, and so you get to work with a coach. My first coach when I worked there was Billy Gunn,
That's
so got to
awesome.
work with him, talk with him. Yeah, he gave me some good feedback, and he doesn't hold back. He gives it you straight up. He'll tell you how you did. And he said, and after the match, he goes, "Yeah, it was pretty good." And I'm like, all right, great. And then Barry's like, dude, that's really good feedback from him. Like usually he'll tell you suck. He'll usually say you suck. He tells everyone they suck. So and then the next time, yeah, it was with Pres10 Vance, and that was great. I think he's got a hell of a lot of potential.
Yeah, he's
What a
great.
look! What a look he's got. And yeah, so he came up to me and he was like, yeah, we're working together, and we're talking a bit. He goes, oh, I want to involve Brodie Jr. And I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want him to do? And we started talking. I'm like, well, how about you take him and you put him on your shoulder? Like, I'm going to make fun of you because I'm taller than you. I'm going to say, oh, you're the big guy. You're the big guy in the group. No, I'm the big guy. You're not the big guy. And then put the kid on your shoulder and I'll be like, oh, look at that. And then QT actually came over and was talking to us. It was like, actually have the kid step first and then have him put him on the shoulder. And that got a bigger reaction.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
that
why
was
he's where he is.
yeah, that was a
Um,
great call.
yeah. So yeah, and I was really happy. I got to meet Amanda Huber as well.
Yep.
And that was fun, meeting her and getting to work with Brodie Jr. Honestly, it couldn't have been a better experience. It was just it's a long day. That's the one thing. It's a very
Of
long day.
course. Long tapings.
Long tapings. The call times at like 11, and we're there till like 10. So it's that that's never the most fun, but it was a really cool experience. Got to meet a lot of people, network with a lot of people, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
A lot of this wrestling stuff, it's very much like timing,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's all
Right
about
place,
timing.
right
It's just,
time.
what do you need? What do they need at this point? Do they need somebody that's my size? Do they need that, or do they not? I don't know. And so really all I do is I just kind of keep trucking and just figure out, when it's my time, it's my time, right?
Yeah.
I'll eventually, maybe it'll come, maybe it won't, who knows, but I'll just keep doing what I'm doing because I like it. I actually enjoy it.
It
The
seems
the
like
the
it. Yeah, the
long
way you're talking about it,
yeah,
you're clearly very
yeah.
passionate. Yeah.
The long road trips will get to you, and the hours in the car, but you just got to think like everyone's done this, and you just got to kind of grit and bear it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Talking best big man matches of all time. Do you have one in your mind where you're like, oh, that is the GOAT for me?
Well, the objective GOAT, right? It would probably have to be Taker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania
25.
25.
Yeah.
You can't get much better than that, it is, but objectively, um, but some that I always think about when I'm thinking about big man matches. I love watching like Stan Hansen Vader from
Yeah.
Japan, those type of matches, hard hitting. The other day I watched Vader and uh Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And
Oh,
the cool thing about those matches is that like they don't do much. Like
yeah.
it's like punches, kicks, body slam, clothesline for like 15 minutes, but somehow the crowd is just so into it because somebody said this to me the other day. People don't go wrestling's a circus, right? It's a circus. That's what we are. We're all carnies. It's a circus. Um, Someone said to me the other day, people don't go to the circus, or people go to the circus to see the elephants. And when the elephants were taken out of the circus, people stopped going to the circus. So people are coming to see the big attractions larger than life. You don't always want to see, it's like, oh, that could be me in the ring, but it's like you want to see this bigger attraction. So just by Vader and Hacksaw just doing punches, kicks, clothesline, body slams, the crowd was all into it because they
On
made
their
everything
feet, I'm
matter.
sure. Yeah,
And
exactly.
they registered everything. So though anything, I mean, one that people don't really remember a lot, and it's one that I love because it wasn't on a pay-per-view, it was on a random Raw. It was Taker and Spike Dudley. I don't know, do you remember that match? It was a
Not really,
hardcore, it was
no.
for like the hardcore title. I think it was in 2002. It was during the American Bat. It was Big Evil Taker, so
Yeah.
he was the heel. And Spike came in, and I really don't think there was a better, like, psychology wise, big man, small man, like that small, like a Spike size,
Yeah.
like match that there was. Spike just sold his ass off for Taker, but then it even gets to the point where you're like, oh my God, Spike has a chance, like right where you pulled the crowd in and be like, I think he actually might do it, and eventually he didn't. But those type of matches I really like because it does take a certain different type of psychology to understand those type of matches. Whenever I'm working, and on the indies, it can be tough because, whenever I'm working on the indies, everybody wants to, quote unquote, get their shit in, right? And if you're working, if somebody, let's say 180 pounds, 6 foot, 180 pounds is working somebody like me, it might be harder for them to get their shit in.
Yeah.
So like, but I want to make everybody look good. He's like, but I always let people know is that, hey, we can both look good in this match. You can look good just selling for me in
Hmm.
this match and sell it. And then I'll give you a few hope spots. And I'll take the big bump for you. And and then everyone's like, oh my God. But if we're seen as equals in size, I don't know, maybe the 180 pound could kick my ass in real life. Who knows? But see if we're equal in size. If the audience perceives us equal in size, then like the whole attraction to me is gone. And now
Yeah.
there's nothing. Now it's just like you're just a regular guy.
Hmm.
One of my favorite matches that I just had to toot my own horn a little bit. One of my favorite matches I just had was with Alexander Hammerstone in Pittsburgh. Are you familiar with Hammerstone?
Yeah, I've seen him on Twitter before. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's MLW champ. We had a really good match, and even a guy like that sold around for me. I was the heel, he was the face. I mean, he's fucking jacked to the gills, but still, knew like, hey, you're the big guy. I'm not gonna bump you around. Like you need to, I want you to show your size a little bit. Working
Work
with guys like
smarter,
that who
not
get it.
harder, kind of.
Exactly. This
Yeah.
shit hurts. It hurts. I don't want to
Yeah.
be bumping all over the place. I
The
give all the
the bump
credit to
card
some.
is real, right?
The
Like
bump
you
card is so
legit
real.
have a bump
Like
card. Yeah.
Brandon learned it firsthand this weekend.
Yeah.
He gets it, and
Yeah.
it ain't a pillow. It ain't a mattress. Like you're falling on steel and wood with a little bit of padding. There used to not be any padding. So it's just I love wrestling to the point where I like what the storylines are good. I like the 5-star New Japan type of match. Not my forte. It can be any. And kudos to anybody who enjoys it. I'd rather see a 15-minute match with a good storyline and good psychology than I would like a 60-minute match. That's
And I
just,
feel like
unreal athleticism.
like almost in a devil's advocate, but not really way. I love those 5-star New Japan matches, but I also
Yeah.
want the 15-minute match with a story on my show. I want
Yeah.
the
Like
variety
I
on every
think
wrestling show.
Stone Cold's really the best person to look at, because when he was having a lot of those like really technically good matches, he was stunning Steve Austin, like arm drags and
Yeah.
whatever, everything. He was such a good technical wrestler. He wasn't getting his over, until all of a sudden now it's just punches, kicks, Luthez press, and a stunner, and now all of a sudden everyone loves him.
Yeah.
So because of the character, because of the personality, the charisma, all he was able to exude, that
And
you
even
can't.
like the storytelling went way more into the match. It
Yeah,
became
yeah.
more about like the psychology with the storyline than the psychology with the grappling.
Exactly. And that's what is gonna that event that is what hooks people at
Yeah.
the end of the day. That's gonna hook everybody. As you could see it, back in the day, it was getting 6, 7, 8 million people watching.
Yeah. And who knows what happens this year? I mean, there's the rumors. I hope it happens this year.
I know. If that glass shot, I mean, there's no bigger pop than that. He overshadows the Warrior pop those Road Warrior pop at this point.
Yeah.
And now it's the Austin pop. That glass shatters in Texas. It's gonna be pandemonium. Are you going?
I think I am. Yeah, I think
All
I'll
right,
be there. I
awesome.
think him versus Kevin Owens will be fucking fire. Like
I think it'll be good.
he's a good guy to get him to work with, because he can do the storyline stuff.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Owens can do that. Really, he can do kind of everything. Really,
the brawling, right? Yeah, all of it.
Oh yeah, he can have that type of match with Austin, where Austin's not going to come in and be like, we ain't having a PWG match. You better believe it. That ain't happening. He's like, Kevin Owens can do the other type.
Kevin will sell his ass off in Texas too, as the chicken.
Oh, he'll take. I would love to see him take the stunner, and he's gonna fly around like the Rock.
Yeah.
No, it's and that's honestly is like, that's what I love. It's probably gonna be a 5 to 6 minute match at the most. But it's gonna be
all it needs to be.
You're gonna remember it. It's all it needs to be. That's all this shit needs to be.
If he comes out in those trunks and that vest again in Texas, like
I wonder if
that's gonna be the lasting image of WrestleMania.
You think Austin's gonna come out in the trunks?
You gotta come out in the trunks.
Yeah.
What are you gonna come out in? You're gonna wrestle in
the jean shorts. The jean shorts. Yeah.
Maybe the jean shorts.
Jean shorts.
You gotta come out in the trunks.
Yeah. I don't know. I think at his age, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, make a petition for it. Come out in the trunk. You want to see Austin in the trunks again?
Let's get the trunks back.
Yeah, no, I think it's shaping up to be a hell of a WrestleMania, honestly.
I think so. I like the 2-night thing as well. As someone that's been to I was at WrestleMania 35, and it was like we got out of there at 1 in the morning.
I was there too.
Fuck, getting out of that place was a headache too. Me and Jared Carabas had to walk like a mile. We found a random taxi. We got home at 3 in the morning. That was a shit show. The 2-night thing, I went to it last year. It was kind of weird with the COVID, because it was
of course,
stadium, but way better in terms of like, you're done with the show and you're like, all right, I'm not exhausted. That was fun.
Yeah. No, I was at 35 as well. And it, luckily we were only staying like a mile and a half away from the stadium in a hotel. So we weren't supposed to, but we're just like, we're not waiting for a taxi to go a mile and a half down this. We just walked. That was a hell of a night, but that again, like, and you got it. Once that Kofi Bryan match,
that was the main event.
Once it was over, like the crowd was just like, okay, now what do we do?
We're about done. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the only thing. I'm like, oh man, because it's a long day, those WrestleManias. And Ellsworth tells me, because he was on the WrestleMania 33. He says it's just the longest like weekend and day, and you're just like sitting around and you never know if your match is going to get cut either, because that will happen. And you want that payday. You want that WrestleMania payday, because it's pretty substantial. And all he had to do was walk Carmelo to the ring. Take a suplex. Take a suplex from Becky Lynch, and that was it. That's all you had to do. You got a hell of a payday for it. Yeah, but I know I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to this weekend. I think Revolution is going to be a hell of a card. I think they set it up. They set it up great. Speaking of big guys, I'm loving what they do with Wardlow. That's how you build a star. That's how you build a guy. You start with the enhancement talent. You start before I said the other word, the J word. You build them up with the enhancement talent. Then last week Nick Comoroto, this week Cesar Bononi. Now it's like, okay, am I next? Am I gonna take the power bomb?
The whole ladder match they're building with the big guys in it is fucking awesome too.
I'm really interested to see where they go with it, because I want to see what what they're going to do, again, bringing it back to it psychology wise, with three really big guys in that match. And then the fourth will I think the last make Christian Cage or Ethan Page. I want to see what they're going to do, because it's really that does intrigue me, because, there's people like, oh, too many big guys. There's some people that are, like, is that their strength? I'm actually intrigued to see how they do it. I think all those guys can work their asses off. I love what Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, Keith Lee's obviously a hell of an athlete and an anomaly. Really, just like the way he can move and the size.
I know he works at Keith Lee style. There's no
there's no one that works like
him.
No,
Exactly,
for sure. And I really think it's going to be I think it's going to be a lot better than people imagine. I think they're going to do a really good job with that match. And we'll see, we'll see. I have no idea who's gonna. I don't usually in these. You're like, okay, you kind of have an idea who's gonna win, but you need the big guys in the ladder match. Like Kane was always great in those Money in the Bank matches.
Big Show, even remember when they brought out the huge ladder?
Yeah, remember he couldn't bring it in the ring. The announcers were trying to
this is too big.
Yeah, they're like, oh boy, how do we cover this up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. And so yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun event. We actually have a show in Pasadena, Maryland on Sunday. And then afterward, we're all going to stay at the bar and watch the.
Oh hell yeah!
And watch ACW. ACW in Maryland. It'll be a fun time. And so no, it's it'll be a fun event, and we'll see. I think the dog collar match will probably steal the show. Those two, forget it. I mean, two the best storyline going right now.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, where can people find you on Twitter, Instagram? Where they can
on Twitter,
Twitter
and Twitter, Instagram, Big Trouble BB. Real simple. That I'm really only on Twitter and Instagram. I feel like I'm too old for TikTok, and I just
I feel like that too. I'm only 23.
I couldn't figure. Look at you, yeah, you're old soul yourself. I'll be 32 next Thursday, so I'm like, I couldn't figure it out. People tell me to get it. I'm like, I can't figure this out. So Twitter, Instagram, you'll find me. I think I'm humorous on Twitter. Hopefully all you guys will too. And then Instagram, you can just see a bunch of pictures of me with my shirt off. So what's better than that?
Yeah, that's usually wrestlers' Instagram, All right, Ben, thank you for joining the show. And best of luck. Hopefully tell Brendan, feet down next time.
Feet down. All right, Robbie, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you do. You do a great job with this stuff.